Hi everyone, this is Kristen with the Kennedy Room of Local History and Genealogy, bringing you another episode of Genealogy on the Go, where we cover genealogy tips and tricks in 15 minutes or less. In our last video, we looked at FamilySearch.org, specifically focusing on how to search their unindexed and untranscribed records. In this video, I'd like to look at FamilySearch one more time and show you two tools that might improve the way you search. For those of you who missed the last video or who aren't familiar with FamilySearch.org, this is a site that's part of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It is a free site, but you will need to create an account to use it. This is a simple process, and we discussed it briefly in the last video, so I'll make sure to include a link to that in the description just in case you need help. So if you'll give me just a second to get signed in, we'll get started. Okay, so now we're at the main page for FamilySearch, and just as a side note, you can always get back to this page by clicking on the FamilySearch icon located here at the left-hand top of the screen. But while we're here, I want to point out two different tools that could be helpful in your research. And the first one is the FamilySearch Research Wiki. Now you can access this by going to the Search tab along the top of the screen. You'll click Search, and then you'll choose Research Wiki. Now this brings us to a map of the world where we can further narrow down the location that we want to research. So let's say we wanted to research Spartanburg, South Carolina. We would click on North America. We would choose the United States. And then we would choose South Carolina. So this has brought us to a page that is focused on South Carolina genealogy research. This has, helpful information on various records. It's got links to guides that will help you get started with South Carolina research, which can be particularly helpful if you're unfamiliar with the state. If we scroll down, we see there's a map of counties that you can look through. But before we go any further with that, I want to briefly look at this blue box called South Carolina Online Genealogy Records. Let's click on this. Okay, so this shows us a list of South Carolina genealogy records that can be accessed online. So we have things like the birth records, marriage records. We have information on death records, maps, military, and land records. Now, this is extremely helpful if you're looking for things at the state level. But if you're looking for things for lower jurisdictions like a county or a town, we're going to need to go back to that map on the last page. So let's go back to that, and we will scroll down, and because we're researching Spartanburg County, I'm going to click on the link for Spartanburg County, and this will bring us to the research wiki for Spartanburg. So this page is basically anything and everything relating to Spartanburg County history and genealogy, and this includes a huge compilation of information on the various records that you might find within our county. So this will be information on things like, court records, deeds, military records, obituaries, newspapers, church records, estate records, and even information on the various institutions at which you might be able to go and find assistance while researching your ancestor. So while we're on this page, I want to go through a couple of examples that can show you how this page can benefit your research. So let's pretend that I'm not from Spartanburg. I don't know anything about Spartanburg or South Carolina records. All I know is that I have family members who were in this area at one point in time. How can I use this to help me search? Let's say I'm looking for marriage records. I have someone who was married in Spartanburg. I need to find some kind of evidence to prove that. So we can scroll down, and in this little box you'll see it's kind of like an index for the material that they have information on. We'll go to Vital Records, and then we're going to choose Marriages. So this brings us to a section that gives us a brief overview of marriage records in South Carolina and in Spartanburg County. And as you can see, right off the bat it tells us in South Carolina marriage records were not required by local governments until 1911. And it also tells us where we can find these records, the ones that do exist. The Spartanburg Probate Court holds marriage license issued from July 1911 to the present. We can also find these records at the Department of Vital Records, who has copies of license issued from July the 1st, 1950 through November 2009. Now, what if my person was married before 1911, before records were being kept? It also gives us information on how to go about finding proof of these marriages. For instance, it suggests looking at the Spartanburg County marriages that were indexed from the Carolina Spartan newspaper. It tells us of an index of marriages that were gathered from implied probate records for Spartanburg County. It even suggests that we go through and we look for church records for anything prior from 1911. So this would be a helpful tool if I needed to find some quick and easy information on how to locate Spartanburg and even South Carolina marriage records. So let's say that my marriage did take place before 1911, before records were being kept by the government. Like I said, one of the things this page suggests is that we look at newspaper records. But I don't know anything about Spartanburg. I don't know anything about the newspapers, what still exists, what's available. How would I handle that? So we can go back to the main search page. And in this index box, we can look for information on newspapers. So let's see what they have. Right here, we have a newspaper link. We'll click on that. And this brings up a list of all of the different newspapers that have been or are still in Spartanburg County. And if you scroll down, you can see, I lost it, excuse me. If you scroll down, you can see there's quite a list. What's particularly helpful about this is we can click on these links and it's going to tell us, where we might be able to find them, if they're available online, what years are still in existence, if there's dates missing. So let's say that I did have somebody who perhaps might have had a marriage record in the Carolina Spartan. So we could click on the Carolina Spartan tab, and you can see there's two in this for this one. We'll click on that. And this brings us to the link or the information page on the Carolina Spartan. That's from the website called Chronicling America. And so we can scroll through here, we can get some basic information on that newspaper, and we can actually view the newspaper for particular dates. So let's see. For instance, we have a digital copy on this website from October 1901. We can click on that and we can browse this newspaper page by page, and perhaps if we're lucky, we'll find the marriage notice that we would need. And Chronicling America is a site through the Library of Congress. It's a very helpful site, and it's probably worth its own video one day. But for now, we're going to go ahead and click out of this and get back to FamilySearch. And let's just try one more example. Let's say, for instance, that I am planning a research trip to Spartanburg, and I need to know what are the places that I can go to research and to find assistance. So we'll look at this index box again, and we will scroll down. And here we see at the bottom there's a list for archives, libraries, and museums. We'll click on this. And this brings us to a page that has a list of different organizations and institutions in Spartanburg County that could assist you with your genealogy research. So for instance, we have the Kennedy Room of Local History and Genealogy at the headquarters library listed. If we scroll down, we can see that there are a few area family history centers that you could look through and perhaps visit. And we also see a list of the different genealogical and historical societies that are in Spartanburg County. And so this information is helpful, and it's a good place to start, but I would encourage you, after you get this information and you're planning your visit, to contact these organizations. As we all know, hours are subject to change, holidays can change hours, and for instance, here it lists a lot of the branches of the Spartanburg County Public Libraries. And while some of these branches may have small genealogy collections, you're probably better off visiting the Kennedy Room at the headquarters library. And so if you contact these organizations as you're planning your trip and before you get here, they can likely either tell you that they have material that can help you, or they can point you in the right direction. So we've only just brushed the surface of what's available on the FamilySearch Wiki pages. I would encourage you to take the time to pull one up for the county that you're researching and just browse through and see what you can find. I know that I mentioned several times that this is a great site for people who are just starting to research a particular county, who may not be familiar with a county. But to be honest, I have been doing Spartanburg genealogy research for the last 7 or 8 years, and I use this site quite frequently. It's a great tool, and it helps you make the most of your research time. You know, you can find out quickly whether a record exists. You can find out quickly where a record might be located. And so you're not constantly having to chase down records that you don't know where they are, or that might not even, exist anymore. So it's a great tool, and definitely something that's worth checking out. So to wrap up, I want to go back to the main page of FamilySearch, and like I told you before, you can do this by going to the FamilySearch icon in this left-hand corner of the screen. We'll click that, and this brings us back to the main page. And so the last tool that I want to quickly tell you about is the digital book collection that FamilySearch has. And you can access this by going back to the search tab. You'll click search, and then you're going to click books. Okay, and so this brings you to the FamilySearch digital library. And this is a library that consists of material from all over the world. And if you scroll down just a bit, you can see several of the libraries that are part of this digital collection. So just as an example, let's do a quick search for the C family, who was a pretty prominent family in Spartanburg history. We'll hit search. And this is going to bring us to a list of results relating to the C family. And as you can see, there's over 16,000 results. Now, some of these results are public, and that means that you'll be able to view the copy of the book online. And as you can see, some of these books are protected, and so you won't have the ability to look through these books. So what might be the easiest thing to do is to go over here and refine our search. So we'll click access level, and we can either choose public, or like full permission, or limited permission. This is going to bring us things that we should be able to see online. For the sake of this example, I'm going to just choose public. And as you can see, this has narrowed down our search a bit too. We only have 9,000 results now. And so we can scroll through, and all of these books are things that we should be able to view. We can choose one. We'll click on the link. And if we scroll down, there should be an option to view all pages. We'll click this. And now we can browse through this book page by page. Another tool that's helpful is the little magnifying glass you see here. We can click search, and now we can search the text of the book. For instance, maybe I want to see if there's any reference to South Carolina in this book. We can type South Carolina and hit OK. And this brings up a list of every time that South Carolina is mentioned. So if we see one that's of interest to us, we can click on this little tab, and it will take us to that page. Now, as you can see, this brings up every time that the word South and the word Carolina appears. So we can fix this by enclosing our phrase in quotations. So let's say, for instance, I want to see every time that someone named John C. is mentioned in this book. I could type quotation John C and then end quotation and hit OK. And this brings up every time the name or the phrase John C. is mentioned within the book. Alright, let's go back and do another search. We'll click books. Let's say, for instance, I'm still trying to learn more about Spartanburg County, and I just want to see if there's any history books on Spartanburg in this collection. So I will type Spartanburg County, and I will hit search. Okay, this brings up several results. I'm going to go over here to access level and change it to public. Okay, and this brings up several books on Spartanburg history. I can choose the one I want to look through. and then I'll choose View All Pages. And again, I can scroll through this book page by page. So this is a pretty helpful tool, especially when you're not able to travel or visit various libraries and archives. And even when things, as things open back up, this is still helpful because you want to make the most of your research experience. So you don't want to be chasing down records that you could find online. So I would highly encourage that you check this out and make the most of the content that they have here. This wraps up our look at FamilySearch.org. Hopefully you've found some helpful information to help you along in your genealogical research journey. As always, if you have questions about using FamilySearch.org or any other local history and genealogy related material in our collection, feel free to visit our website for more information or to contact us. Until next time, happy researching.